Hello, welcome to Movement Not Miracles. I'm Anna from Eat, Move, Be Happy. Movement Not Miracles is your bite-sized version of ideas to move through your joints, stretch through your muscles, generally look after your posture and ward off some of those aches and pains. That was Martha's tale as ever. She started to walk around just as soon as we start to film. She's very attuned to Movement Not Miracles now. So to ward off some of those aches and pains that we get from sitting still, sitting in the same position for too long. And it's really easy to be slouched forward or sitting without stretching through our spine and looking after our posture. So moving frequently and not sitting still is a really good idea. Even if you change your position, then that's sort of work through some of your upper back, then that can help ward off some of those aches and pains. So today I'm going to mix it up a bit. So we're going to start sort of and do a combination of different things. Just hopefully at the end of the session you'll feel a little bit more movement, maybe a little bit more space in your joints, and sometimes a little bit taller. So we're going to start with our shoulders. Oh, no, we'll do shoulder rolls first, and then I'll go and get my band and we'll do some shoulder dislocates. So to start off with, a really simple move and a really effective move, which we can do seated or standing. Making sure we're sitting tall or standing tall. So think of, even when you're just standing still, it's really easy. If I show you from the side, we end up standing and we're sort of standing, I don't know, waiting for the kettle to boil, and we're standing like this. So everything's sort of sunken in, my shoulders are rounded, my belly's sticking out, and everything's slouched. There's not an awful lot of support there. And I'm not very tall, but if I stand up, so think of pushing out of the floor, lifting up out of my pelvis, straight away, that feels so much better. It feels better in my back, it feels better in my mid-back, feels better in my shoulders, and I've got more space across my chest, so breathing feels better as well. So just standing nice and tall or sitting nice and tall is a good way of just reminding ourselves of what our posture should and can feel like. And rolling our shoulder blades, so taking your shoulders up and then back and then down, and really squeezing those shoulder blades together as you go through the move. So your shoulder blades should move around on your back, keeping that nice tall posture, and think of, as your shoulders come forwards, your shoulder blades should move apart, and then as you go up and back and down, they should squeeze together. And then if you can increase that move, so bring your elbows into it, and then nice straight arms, without letting your back stick out, so your bottom stick out rather, without arching through your back. So the tendency is to do this, and we want to try and stabilise that lower part of our back. One, so that we don't overextend through our lumbar, which is not good for us, but two, if you fasten the lower part of your back, you work more in the movement through your upper back, which is the bit that we are trying to access. I'm now going to get my belt. So you can do these using a dressing gown belt. I'm using a yoga belt, a yoga strap, anything that is solid for you to brace your arms against. The closer your hands are together, the harder this is. So this, for me, is a really good way of me getting some more movement through my shoulders, because my shoulders do tend to be quite stiff. So we're going to take our arms back and all the way over. There should not be any pain when we do this. So don't force your arms over if you feel pain in your shoulder joint. However, your arms should move because your shoulder joint is above ball and socket joint, so it moves through a number of different planes, and your arm should move over the back of your head, like so. As I said, the closer your hands are together, then the harder this is. So, that's a bit hard for me. I'm just about on my limit now. Now what will tend to happen is, to make it easier, my elbows bend. So I don't get movement through my shoulder, and I make my arm shorter by bending my elbow, which is not what we're after. So it's less about how close your arms are and more about how much movement can you get through your shoulders. Okay, so they feel a little bit better already. We're going to take this into some side bends now, bendianas, my favourites. So feet a little bit wider, and just reaching down to one side and then reaching down to the other. Hello, Martha. She's going to help now. There we go. Just saying hello. So reaching all the way down, making sure that you're not leaning forwards as you reach down. So you're standing nice and tall, reaching down one side, and we'll go for movement because our spine should move. And then let's introduce a little bit of a stretch. So all the way over with the other arm, reaching up, and all the way over. Don't forget to keep breathing. I do like these. These really do work my back in a way that's very useful for my back. Okay, slight variation on these, which also just helps with a stretch in your hip flexors. So cross one foot over the other. You might want that front foot a little bit forwards just to help with your balance. Again, standing nice and tall. If you're doing these seated, this obviously you are not going to be able to do. So keep going with the side bends, or you can introduce some twists. We're going to stand nice and tall, and again we're going to stretch down to the side and then down to the other side. And you're not going to be able to bend as much, and that doesn't matter because we're just focusing on, you should feel some stretch down the, bit of a subtle stretch this one, into your hip flexors, the muscles in the front of your hips. Just swap your feet over so the other foot goes forward, standing nice and tall, and then do the same. Don't forget to keep breathing. A bit of a wobble there. Okay. Right. Right, we're going to do a forward bend. So if you have a little bit of a temperamental lower back, then you need to be really careful with these. So my suggestion would be do these from a chair. So do them seated. So if you can imagine, I am sitting in a chair. So I'll be sitting in this position. Obviously my feet will be flat on the floor. And to do a forward bend, if you think of bending forwards from the groin, so it's not curling down through your back. We want to be moving from your groin area, so we're bending from your groin and bringing your body forwards. So it sometimes helps to put your hands onto a table or onto a window ledge, because we're aiming for some extension in your back. So we're not rounding over and curling up into a ball. You're thinking of sticking your bottom backwards and bringing your chest forwards. So stretching through your arms can help with that movement. Now, if you are able to, if you can do this from standing, so the further apart your legs are, then it's slightly easier in that you don't get as much, it's easier to get the stretch through the back of your legs. If you are really flexible in your hamstrings, you can have your feet together. I'm going to have my legs quite wide on the edge of my mat today because my back is quite stiff and my hamstrings are pretty stiff. So to start off with, standing nice and tall with your pelvis tucked under, fold your arms in front of you and take them, I'll show you here, move back a little bit, take them up above your head. So I can't fit myself in the camera if I do it here, so I'm going to have to move again in a second. But we're aiming to get your shoulders, your arms, shoulders back and your arms above your head. Let me just come back to my mat, away from the wall. Now that for me is quite hard work, just in my shoulder mobility. And then we're just going to fold, doing the same action that I showed you as if you're seated in a chair. Try to keep your legs vertical. I tend to rock backwards. And we're going to try and let gravity do its work and stretch, pulling my arms down towards the floor and stretching through my back. An easier version of this is to use a surface. I don't know if I showed you, my radiator's here. So we can do forward bend and not bend as far forwards and use the surface to flatten, to push your hands against and flatten through your back. So if your back is a little temperamental or your hamstrings are really tight and you can't bend forwards that much, then using a solid surface to press your arms against is one thing that you can do. So I'm just going to go back into trying to keep my legs vertical, relax through your head. Now if you're really good at this and really, really bendy, you'll be able to get so that you fold much closer to your body to your legs. Now I'm not really good at it, but what I'm trying to do is stretch through my back. Now I can feel the stretch through the back of my legs, and that's okay. Legs should be straight, knees should be straight, and I'm just breathing in this position. And the longer you stay, I get a little bit more stretch through my back. I'm thinking of pulling my head down towards the floor. Okay, if you put your hands to the floor and lift your head up, and then come up ever so slowly. It's one of those moves that the more you do it, the more of a feeling of a stretch that you get. You will feel it in the back of your legs. So if your hamstrings are really tight, you're probably not going to be able to fold that much. And maybe starting off using a surface to rest against, but it's a really good way of stretching through your back. One of the ones we're going to do now is if you kneel on the floor and tuck your toes under and just rock through your toes, you get a nice stretch through the base of your foot, which we can often forget. So just stretching through our feet can help release some of the tension in the base of your foot, which is quite useful. And then pushing your hands on the floor, you're going to stick your bottom up towards the ceiling and try and put your heels on the floor to get some stretch through the backs of your legs, but also into your ankles. Now I cannot put my heels on the floor, but that's okay. So do that again. You do as much as you can do, that's fine. Just a bit of a rock from side to side with your toes tucked under. The closer you bring your knees, you can see me sort of creeping back, and keeping your toes tucked under the more that stretches in the base of your foot. And then if you put your hands down and lift up so that your legs are nice and straight. Okay, and then the final one we're going to do today, butterfly stretch. So if you sit on the bones of your bottom, and you can either do this one with your legs crossed and then round down. Imagine you've got a netball sitting in your lap and you're trying to round down over your netball, and you should feel some stretch in the outside of your hips. Or if your hips are really bendy, you can put your feet together and try and get your heels towards your bottom and then round down. And that takes it more, for me, the bit that's stretching there, and it does stretch your inner thighs, but because my hips are not very flexible, I can't really do any more than that in this position, which in itself is fine. I am bending forwards a little bit. But my knees won't relax any further down than that. I'd have to sit up on blocks to raise my hips to be level with my knees. So I'm going to do this version just to stretch through the outer hips. So it's a slightly different stretch, so you can do both actually. And then if you swap the cross so that the other foot is forward, and again imagine that ball and just round down. And repeat as often as you would like to. So that's the end of Movement Not Miracles for today, giving you some ideas. You can mix it up throughout the day. You can add in different movement, different stretches, just to keep things mobile. We tend to get problems in our joints when they stiffen up, and if they stiffen up, it's usually an indication that they've not been moving through their full range of movement, mainly because either the muscles have tightened up around them and are restricting the movement. So stretching through our muscles can help our joints move more, but we have to deliberately move through the joint as well. So a combination of stretching and mobility is a really good idea. So enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and Movement Not Miracles will be back next Tuesday. Check out the website www.eatmovebehappy.com for lots of other ideas on looking after your health and well-being. We have online coaching programs to help you be healthier and feel happier. And enjoy your weekend. Oh, don't forget, it's the Santa Fun Run, the virtual Santa Fun Run this weekend. So those of us at Eat, Move, Be Happy and Get Moving will be covering our 5 kilometres in some form or other, running, jogging, walking, scooting, cartwheeling, somersaulting, and we'll be putting photographs. So it'll be lovely to see your version too. Take care, and I'll see you next week.